All right, let's get right into this because something pretty strange is happening. While you've got US giants like Amazon and Microsoft pouring billions into India, the US government is making a completely different and honestly, a really surprising bet. We're going to break down a massive government loan that seems to be flowing against all the typical financial currents. First, just take a look at that number, $1.25 billion. Let that sink in for a second. That is a huge amount of money for any country to be loaning out. It's a massive financial commitment no matter how you slice it. And it's super important to know where this cash is coming from. See, this isn't some private investment fund chasing a hot new market. Nope. This is a direct loan from the US government's own Export-Import Bank, the Exim Bank. In other words, this is taxpayer-backed money. So, who's getting this giant government loan? Pakistan. And this right here is probably the most surprising piece of the whole puzzle, and it's the big question we're going to dig into right now. So what is going on here? Why would the US government, especially under the Trump administration, place such a massive financial bet on a country that most private investors are, frankly, staying away from? Let's unpack the motivations. To really understand just how unusual this loan is, we first have to look at the state of Pakistan's economy. And, well, the picture is not pretty. We're not just talking about a little slump. This is a serious ongoing economic crisis. Just look at this. The official GDP growth rate they're projecting is only 2.6%. That's incredibly sluggish. It's lagging behind a lot of African nations. And honestly, the source material we're looking at suggests that the real number could be even lower, maybe closer to just 1%. And what's really eye-opening is this regional comparison. A lot of people don't realize this, but in terms of overall economic size, neighboring Bangladesh has actually pulled way ahead of Pakistan. It really puts their economic struggles into a new perspective. Now, throw this number into the mix. Pakistan's struggling economy has to support a massive, and I mean massive, population of 250 million people. Some projections even show it could become the world's third most populous country by 2050. And that growth isn't slowing down. With a fertility rate of 3.2, the population is young and it's expanding fast. So you've got this explosive population growth smashing right up against a stagnant economy. It is a classic recipe for instability. Okay, so if the economy is so weak, what in the world is the US motive here? Well, it seems the answer isn't about spreadsheets and GDP. It's about what's buried deep in the ground. This isn't just a loan, it's an investment in resources. To really get the mindset here, you just have to think back a few months ago. Remember when President Trump suddenly declared he was interested in buying Greenland? It sounded kind of weird at the time, right? But it perfectly captures this administration's obsession with securing one thing: critical minerals. So, what are critical minerals? Simply put, they are the building blocks of our entire modern world. We're talking about essential stuff for everything from your smartphone and electric cars all the way up to advanced fighter jets. Securing a steady supply is a huge deal for national security. And here's the core geopolitical strategy. Right now, the US depends heavily on China for a lot of these critical minerals. So this global hunt for new sources, whether it's in Greenland or in this case, Pakistan, is all about breaking that dependency. And it looks like Pakistan has convinced the US that it's sitting on a treasure trove of them. But look, just having a strategic goal doesn't make it a good plan. This loan is an absolutely massive gamble, and there are some very, very serious risks involved that we've got to talk about. So here's the bottom line question. Does this actually make sense as an investment? Is the potential reward of finding some minerals worth the very real risk of this billion-dollar loan just disappearing? Well, for starters, the mining project is in Balochistan, a region with a violent separatist movement that has attacked foreign workers before. On top of that huge security risk, the mineral reserves themselves, they're totally unproven. It's pure speculation. So this is US taxpayer money being used in what's essentially a high-stakes gamble with absolutely zero guarantee of a return. So if the economics are shaky and the risks are through the roof, what really explains this decision? Well, the source material we're looking at argues that to understand this deal, you have to stop seeing it as a broad US strategy and start seeing it as a phenomenon that's very specific to the current administration. And you can see the disconnect right here. While the US government is sending this huge loan to Pakistan, the US private sector, the people laser focused on growth and stability, is pouring its billions into India. They're voting with their wallets, and they are choosing a very different path. So why the special treatment? The analysis points to a pretty transactional relationship. Pakistan's leadership has been laying on the praise, suggesting a Nobel Prize nomination for the president, claiming he single-handedly stopped a nuclear war. This loan, along with a separate $686 million F-16 package, is seen as a reward for all that flattery. And the result is a policy shift so dramatic that the source describes President Trump as being on a path to become the most pro-Pakistan president in decades. That is an unbelievable shift, especially given the history between the two countries. And that's really the key takeaway here. What we're witnessing doesn't seem to be some fundamental long-term pivot in American foreign policy. Instead, it really looks like a personalized approach driven by the specific priorities and relationships of the current president. Which leaves us with the final, multi-billion-dollar question. Is this a brilliant, unconventional move to secure vital resources and reshape a key alliance? Or is it a reckless gamble based on unproven claims and a bit of political flattery? Only time is going to tell.